What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and after nearly 2 months without a map guide, I'm happy to say that they're finally back starting with today's guide, which is going to be an attacking guide for Naboo, which is definitely one of my favourite maps in the game. The program I used to get these cinematics was broken for quite a while, so I wasn't actually able to get any footage, but now that it has been updated, I've actually managed to get all the cinematics that I need for the remaining maps in the game, which should hopefully mean I can start smashing out these map guides again for you guys. Before I get stuck into the guide though, obviously you all saw the new intro at the start of the video. Now, I've never been too sure about whether I should have an intro or not, so let me know down in the comments whether you liked it or not. I've also got a new capture card as well, so from here on out the quality of the gameplay should hopefully be a little bit better for you guys. Now, with that said, moving on to the first phase of Naboo, your job as the droid army is to escort the MTT from the back of the map all the way up to the palace doors, which then obviously lead onto the second phase of the map from there. Going into the bird's eye view of the map, you can see here that there are 3 checkpoints within the first phase, and each time you reach a new checkpoint it'll push back the enemy's spawns as well as moving yours closer to the action as well. This dotted line is the track where the MTT moves towards the palace, and as I said, if it does manage to reach the end of the road, then you'll be onto the second phase of the map. Your enemy's job is to try and take out the MTT before it gets to this point though, by firing off iron disruptors that are scattered throughout the first phase of the map. So your only job in this phase is to try and take out the clones before they can put too many shots into the MTT. And the less damage it does take, the more tickets or spawns, for the lack of a better word, that your team will have going into the next phase. So what I tend to do from the start of the map is to head over to the right side, since most of your teammates are going to head left and defend the disruptor over there, since it is a lot closer to your spawn. So if you and your teammates head over to the right side, then there's a good chance that you can lock down both disruptors, which is pretty much going to guarantee that you'll make it to the second phase of the map. What you usually want to try and do is play it calm and try and slowly pick off the first wave of enemies that are trying to get their hands on the disruptor, and then once you think it's safe enough, your best bet is to try and push up as far as you can and pretty much just set up a defensive area so that the enemies can't get past you and get their hands on a disruptor. It doesn't really matter which class you choose on this first phase, you can pretty much do well with every single class in the game, so just choose a class that you feel comfortable with, and then you pretty much just want to try and get as many kills as you can without straying too far from the disruptors. This little area that I'm in now is probably the best place to get yourself over on the right side of the map, since you can pretty much defend every direction without being out in the open, and if you have a few teammates with you, then you can pretty much just shut down this area and keep your enemies at bay. Now, like I said, once the MTT passes under the first archway, then you'll be able to push up further and try and stop the enemies from getting to the next lot of disruptors. If you manage to get past the first checkpoint with over 85 health left on the MTT, then you're pretty much guaranteed to make it onto the second phase of the map. Now, the rest of the first phase is pretty much identical to the first checkpoint in that you just need to keep pushing up and trying to take control of the areas where the disruptors spawn, rather than just letting the enemies grab them and then hope that you can take them out before they fire them off. The second checkpoint can be a little harder to progress through without taking damage, as the clones spawn a lot closer to the disruptors than the droids do, so the MTT is most likely going to take a fair bit of damage in this checkpoint. However, if you did well in the first checkpoint, then it pretty much doesn't matter, as they usually won't be able to deal enough damage anyway. With that being said, anything under 50 tickets means that you'll actually start losing tickets for good, and you'll only gain back 50 when you move on to the second phase. For example, if you make it to the second phase with 70 tickets left, then you'll go all the way back up to 100. However, if you get as low as 10 tickets, then you'll only get 60 going into the next phase, meaning it'll be a lot harder to win, and the next phase is definitely a hard one, so you're going to be needing as many tickets as you can get. Now, it is fairly easy to rack up a lot of battle points in this first phase when you're running around defending the disruptors, so if you do manage to save up enough for a hero, then I'd definitely recommend using either Maul or Bossk on this map. They're both only 6,000 battle points, and they're probably the 2 most well-suited heroes for this map as well, so if you do get a chance, then definitely grab one as soon as possible. Maul will probably have to be the better option for the first phase, since he moves so quickly and can move around the map really easy, but for the second and third phases, Bossk would have to be the best, since he can just dominate the close quarters areas, and honestly you can nearly take the objectives on your own with him if you make proper use of his explosives and Dioxis. So now moving on to the second phase of the map, and as I said, this one's definitely a lot harder than the first phase, since it goes from such an open area into a really tight part of the map. There are 2 objectives that you need to take out. The first one is over on the left of the map through the tight hallways, and then there's pretty much an identical objective over on the right side of the map as well. Now, for this last phase, I'd probably have to recommend playing as a heavy, just so you can make use of the extra explosives, and if you do choose the heavy class, then make sure to equip the explosive sentry and rocket barrage star cards so that you can try and clear out the hallways of enemies so you and your teammates can push in and take control. With all these explosives, you can pretty much just scare the enemies off, and then hopefully your teammates are willing to push in and take control of the rooms, at which point you can push in as well and then set up a bit of defense before the clones have time to push back in. Again, don't expect to get too many kills with the sentry or barrage. They're more of a scare tactic rather than a way to properly clear out the room. Most enemies can jump out of the way in time, but even if that is the case, it will allow you to push in and hopefully take them out before they even realise you're in there. Once you're in the room, even though you are on the attacking side, you pretty much just want to play lockdown defense and try and keep the clones out of the room as much as possible rather than playing aggressively like I mentioned in the first phase. Try and get yourself behind a bit of cover and then just keep your eyes on the doorways, and if your teammates are doing the same thing, then it's pretty much next to impossible for the clones to try and push back in. Even if you're the one taking the objective, I'd recommend just jumping off once your abilities are recharged and using them until they run out, just so that there's one extra person defending the room. All it takes is for one clone to rush in and take you out when you're defenseless, so I find it best to just use your abilities when you can, and usually another teammate will jump on and take over when you jump off anyway. These same tips apply to both objectives. They're pretty much identical, and if you do manage to get one of them, then you'll usually be able to push over and take the other one out as well, although it can get pretty chaotic with all 40 players fighting over such a small room. So once you take out both objectives, you'll push up to the third phase, which is honestly probably the hardest out of the three. This one takes place in the throne room, and all you need to do for this one is to be inside the circle area, since this objective is a capture point rather than having to plant an explosive or anything like that. This phase is even more chaotic than the last one, and I definitely have to recommend using a hero if you have enough battle points, or at least an enforcer or aerial trooper, just to try and give your team a bit of an advantage. If you don't have enough for a hero or enforcer class, then I'd have to recommend the heavy class again, and for this phase I usually use the DC-15 LE with the explosive shot just to deal a bit more damage and give yourself a bit of an advantage at longer range. This is a pretty close quarters area, so pretty much everyone is going to be running a close quarters style blaster, which means if you can find a mix of close and long range, then you'll be able to do a lot better regardless of what range you're fighting at, and the further you are away, the less likely you are to die. Once you've taken out enough enemies to be able to push in, it's really just a matter of which team gets the most players within the area of the objective. If you and your teammates can all jump on at once, it's going to be pretty hard for the clones to fight back, although it does go both ways as well. If you and your teammates are all just getting on the objective one by one, then you're not going to stand the best chance of winning, so even though it can be pretty hard without voice chat, you need to just pick a good time to head into the objective area when you notice a bunch of teammates all heading in at once. Once you are on the objective, you really just need to make sure you're always on the move and keeping an eye on every door at once, as the enemies can pretty much spawn from any direction in this last phase. If you stay fixated on one entrance, then there's always the chance you'll be taken out from another direction, so just make sure you stay aware of your surroundings and you should be perfectly fine. So that's going to be it for our Naboo map guide today, guys. I'm glad I can start making these guides again, and hopefully these tips did help some of you guys out. If you did enjoy the video, then make sure to leave a like down below to help support the channel, and if you have any tips of your own, then definitely don't hesitate to let me know down in the comments section. If you are new to the channel, then feel free to subscribe and make sure to turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any more Battlefront 2 guide videos or live streams. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.